When I started Crossroads, 2 weeks later, Pastor Sean started.
First week that we came to church, they were meeting at Meadow Lane Elementary, and they were locked out of the school.
Walking in, everyone was really friendly when we came, and that really left a mark on us, and ended up coming back again.
Dad was our spiritual leader. He taught us so much about and loving other people and the Word of God.
I met Dan right off the bat, Dan Thompson, and I saw him in his sandals and his Hawaiian shirt. He was so friendly and kind.
And I also met Dan in the shorts and the shirt, and wow, this is something. I like this.
We walked into the chapel and were greeted by a young gentleman who welcomed us with open arms, and then we went and sat down, and then after church started, the young gentleman that greeted us turned out to be the pastor, and we had no idea.
We started coming to Crossroads Church because Zachary started preschool with Miss Donna and Miss Sue. What impressed us and kept us coming back was Pastor Dan and how he was so comfortable and he spoke so easily to everybody, and the place was very welcoming.
We came by here, we noticed the nice crowds, and we came to attend, and just felt like home.
What do you do in church?
Praise to God.
How do you do that?
How impressive is this? Pray to Him.
Started coming to the church. Mark had a heart attack shortly thereafter. And even though the church didn't know us very well, they absolutely took us in like we were family, treated us even better than our own families treated us. And we were just bound to the church with our hearts ever since then.
I ditto what she said.
Okay, I had met Dan and decided I wanted to settle here.
God led me to this place, and everybody was so friendly and outgoing. I just felt comfortable there, so I've been there ever since.
My wife and I were looking for a church, and so we thought, well, we better try Crossroads. And then we went here, and we just on the way home were like, well, that felt like home. So here we are.
Tipping toys.
Who preaches?
Dad.
Moses and Graham came and prayed over me in the hospital, and knowing that their parents are teaching them to pray for healing and to see that their prayers were answered in my life really meant a lot to me.
I agree with everything he said.
What do you like about church?
Oh,
Do you like that guy that preaches?
We're eating cookies.
First week I remember when I was about 5 or 6 years old, it was an Easter service back at Believers Fellowship, and I just remember walking around in front of the stage while they were practicing the songs for that particular Sunday.
We were at a fall festival at the church, and Lynn just came up to me and said, "Hey, come and help me with this soup." And I think at that moment I felt like I belonged.
Having my friends at church.
The friendliness of the people is what really stuck out to me.
Well, when I first started coming here, I wasn't even part of the church, but they were putting an addition over on the House of Hope across from Belmont School. I thought, what the heck, I'd go ahead and come over and do that and help them out. And through those relationships, I was able to come to a knowledge of Jesus Christ and got saved at this church.
The softball team we had, when we played softball, you were always on the losing team.
I enjoyed the church here.
Church, we weren't members yet. We were visiting Dan and visiting him every year for about 3 years, and it says, we covered your prayers, but we need financial support too. And he introduced me to the elders, and the church come behind us, and every month we got financial support, prayer support, and then they started coming down and visiting us. What a blessing.
We just felt like it was home right off the bat. You know, we just felt like people were loving and they loved the Lord, and that's what we're looking for.
I was here one Sunday and thought, oh, that's a pretty nice place. So I came back the next Sunday. Because people were so friendly and so gracious, and especially Pastor Dan really impressed me. I just felt like he was speaking right to me.
Just the presence of the Lord was in this place. People were kind, but not pushy. And it was, I just kept coming back.
I think I remember Pastor Dan not once in a suit, ever. And my husband was really excited because he was a golfer and he had on a Hawaiian shirt and shorts and he wore a straw hat. And he thought that he was just a visitor, and that's how he introduced himself and wanted to know who he was in the church. He said, well, I am the pastor.
And I remember Carlos and Josh and Daniel. Susan would take care of the boys in nursery.
You can tell that the worship really comes from the heart. It's not just singing songs. Pastor Sean has a passion for the Lord, and the elders and the people who preach the Word of God.
Pastor Dan was up front, and he had on chinos and his flannel shirt, and I'm going, I like this place. And it's been home since. I have another family.
Keith and I started coming to church back in January of 2010, and we just remembered the welcoming spirit of the people.
When we first came to Crossroads 7 years ago, it was such a loving and warm and welcoming place. Our whole family felt comfortable here, and we just knew that this was the church we wanted to make our home.
One, we felt very welcomed and warm.
My very first memory here was when Graham was probably about 4 months old, 5 months old, and we walked through the door, and Paul, Pastor Dan's dad, he stuck his hands on Graham's head and said a prayer to him.
When we came to Crossroads, I think the biggest thing that touched me was just how friendly and open the people were, and we were just really blessed.
Week after week, people would be interested in hearing from us, recognizing that we were still getting our feet underneath us, and everybody had the consistent attitude week after week, which just showed me that it was legitimate and real.
One of our favorite things was to go over to Leonard and Tracy's, and they had this big empty lot next to their house, and we would play supposedly touch football. Somehow I got knocked in the head or whatever, the wind knocked out of me. I'm laying on the ground, almost dead, and everybody says, let's go get something to drink, and they all leave and go into the house, and I'm left there laying on the ground, half dead. And to me, that's what I call relationship.
We did this party. One of the things that Tracy had come up with was she wrote this skit, but the funny part was that she drafted people and just told them, you're going to play this part. So I was drafted as a dog, which I do that quite well actually, and then Dan was drafted as a woman, and Gary was a little boy, and Danny Dunn was a tree, and then she had these costumes that we had to go and put on outside of the room, and then she would call us in, and she would read this narration, and then we were supposed to act out what the narration was, and of course we all ad-libbed different parts, and it turned out to be hysterically funny. And I didn't have much to do as a dog, so you know, I just kind of improvised a little bit. And I remember going over to Danny, who was the tree, and I lifted my leg and peed on him, which he kind of got mad, but as a tree, what could he do?
One of the things I remember the most about the early days of church is just the sheer amount of time we all spent with each other. And our church has been through some rough times, and I think it's because of all that time we spent together and the relationships we built that we were able to make it through those rough times. And it's really made the good times better.
Have a good one. Sorry I'm not at your party. You know where I am. So I guess that's about it. Have a great day. See ya.
Well, I love being a part of Crossroads Church. It's been awesome to be at a church in our hometown, a church of people who not only love our family, but have accepted us into their family as well.
And I've just never seen a group of people who care for each other and genuinely love each other as much as I've seen here at Crossroads. It's awesome to be a part of what God is doing here, and just the way that people work together and love each other is just something like I've never seen before.
We love Crossroads.
Yay!